Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So earlier today, I saw a story about a 7-year-old girl here in Baltimore who was shot. She's in critical and unstable condition. She is in shock trauma, and she is clinging to her life as I speak right now. And this whole incident just made me think about the senseless violence that plagues Baltimore and other cities around this country. And it made me wonder, will anything ever be done to end this kind of violence? I mean, do these thugs not have any kind of code of ethics at all? And it's unclear at this point if she was shot by accident or if she was an intentional target. But either way, it seems like these people who are quote-unquote thugs or gangsters would have some kind of code of ethics. Even gangsters have a code that protects the children. But apparently these people, these animals that engage in this violence in Baltimore and other places like Chicago, they have no code, they have no sense of honor, they have no shame at all. And I just wonder about the people. I know that somebody had to have witnessed that shooting. Somebody knows something about the shooting. Somebody knows the man or woman who is responsible for this senseless act of violence. And I think that they have a moral duty to say something. We can no longer adhere to this fake code of not snitching. It is not snitching when you report people who are terrorizing your community. That's not snitching. That's called being courageous. That's called taking action and taking responsibility for the condition of your community. Now I understand that people have every reason to fear these kinds of monsters that commit these kinds of acts. Because unfortunately, the city police department doesn't do enough to protect witnesses to these types of crimes, and often the witnesses end up dead. I get that, I understand that, and we must demand that our city government do better to protect witnesses. But we cannot turn a blind eye to this senseless violence that plagues our community. We can no longer adhere to the see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil type of mentality. We have to move beyond that and take responsibility for the conditions in our community. As my imam says, it's our community and it's our responsibility. And it's time for us to take that responsibility. When Freddie Gray was wrongfully killed by those stinking cops, people were rightfully outraged because of that. People were marching in the streets. People were engaging in acts of civil disobedience and rebellion, and rightfully so. But where is the outrage for this type of situation? And I understand full well that there are groups like Ceasefire and 300 Men March here in Baltimore who are putting in the work, trying to make a difference in the community. But what about the collective masses of the people? What are you doing to end this violence? How long will you turn a blind eye to this brutality that plagues our community? These people, these thugs, these drug dealers, these gangsters, they are a minority in our community. It's time for the people to take the community back. We need to have a community that's safe, where people are able to be outside without fearing gunfire, where people are able to go on the block without watching drug transactions take place every couple of seconds, where children can play without worrying about being hit with a stray bullet. We need safe communities, clean communities, upstanding communities. And it's up to us to make that happen. It's like we just turn a blind eye to this violence. And as long as we continue to turn a blind eye to this violence will continue to plague our communities. That's what it will do. Who knows? The next 7-year-old or next child shot and injured or worse, killed by these thugs could be your child. It could be your daughter, your son, your nephew, your niece, your grandson or granddaughter, your brother or your sister. So to prevent that from happening, we all have to be engaged, and I plan to do so myself. I plan to get more involved in Baltimore ceasefire, and I encourage those people who are in Baltimore to do your part by joining Baltimore ceasefire and other groups that are fighting against this senseless violence that plagues our communities. We have to get engaged, and if you are in another city, you need to find out what kind of stop the violence organizations are in your community and get engaged in those organizations. Do your part to fight against the violence that plagues the community. And we have to report these crimes. And I was reading in the Baltimore Sun, they have a number for people to call if they know anything about this crime. That number is 410-396-2100. We have to be courageous. Our ancestors were courageous when they fought against the Klan, when they fought against the brutal police that attacked our people with dogs and fire hoses. And it's time for us to stand up to these thugs. If we can stand up to the police, if we can stand up to the KKK, then surely we can stand up to these thugs that plague our community. We can stand up to these terrorists who terrorize our community.